Greetings to everyone. I would like to start this session by thanking the panelists who are with us here today. I also thank the audience who accompanied us throughout the week. This is the last roundtable before the closed session, and we will conclude with a highly relevant and interesting topic, civil society participation in BRICS Plus. Here we are. We've gathered the best people to tell us more about the space for cooperation, which well represents the people-to-people pillar of BRICS Plus. Please follow the speeches and be sure to register your presence. The link to the form will be available in the chat. And without further questions, I would like to call upon our first guest, Professor Victoria Panova. She holds a PhD in International Relations from the Moscow State University of International Relations. Dr. Panova is also head of the BRICS Expert Council in Russia, vice rector of the HSE University, co-chair of the Russian NGO group on BRICS and G20, and also W20 Sherpa for the Russian side. Dr. Panova, you're very welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It is my utmost pleasure to be part of this, those deliberations and part of this session. Definitely BRICS is of, I think, is of utmost importance for the world, not just for our countries, because this is a principally new grouping, which is based on, the features of international relations that are no longer respected by our Western colleagues, which is mutual respect, sovereignty, which is desire to listen to each other, desire to be, or let's say, agreement to be diverse and to respect this diversity, multi-civilizational approach, multicultural approach. This is very important that we, in this group, are working together and trying to formulate, the new foundations of the new world that will be fairer and more equitable and more just for all the people, not only BRICS Plus or global majority, as we say in Russia, but for all, including the peoples of their golden billion who are very the people who are very much kind of interested in what BRICS is. And they're not always agreeing with the elites with regards to approach to BRICS, because, when Trump or somebody from Europe says that BRICS are the threat, which we're not, there is no agreement and there is no approach of the kind from the peoples. They very much see it as an interesting and promising format that will be also doing good for them. I would like to talk a bit about the civil formats, because last year was very important. We launched finally their institutional format at the BRICS Civil Council, and I'm happy to see here also two other people who are representing their chapters of the BRICS Civil Council, Fabiana, Raymond. But we went through a kind of very rich history before this formed, and I will come back to present time a bit later, a bit of history. We had, the other club mechanisms, the G7, the G20, while they seem to be working on similar principles, the civil engagement there is of very different nature. And I think BRICS serves more of a democratizing purpose for the world in this regard, civil BRICS. Because, I remember with the G7, when Russia was kind of first time being part of it, it was Russia who introduced the formula of civil engagement with the full participation, because what we saw before, it was the desire of the people to influence the agenda, to see what's going on behind the closed doors, to see how much the group could be giving some, something good to them. And because it was not happening, there were rather massive protests, anti-globalist movements, and they were not paid much attention before the tragic incident of Genova in 2001, when a person got killed, one of the demonstrators. But even after that, there was not a real understanding that people have to be taken seriously. And we suggested, we chaired it once, it was 2006, and we suggested that we have this type of engagement. And it was the first time when all their BRICS civil, different types of NGOs, they would be part of the meetings, they would meet all the Sherpas. It was unprecedented. Nothing like this happened before. Some transnational NGOs or some national would meet like one chair, the chairing country, the chair and Sherpa, but not all the Sherpas. And another revolution was when over 1,000 people from G7, G8 plus countries managed to have a meeting with President Putin, and it was like 3+ hours of discussions, very open, very frank, and people they were talking about their needs. And interestingly, next year when it was Germany chairing, and there was kind of a crash back on the civil movement, because we had people coming from the previous years and saying, you know what, we're citizens of this country, but it was much more democratic back then. It was interesting, usually Russia is presented as something of, outstanding, non-democratic, but, when it really meant having people on board, we proved it differently. In 2013, we also suggested, and it was grassroots movements. It wasn't introduced both in 2006 and 2013, not from the top. So it was grassroots. We had a group of initiative NGOs, and another part of our Russian chapter, Alena Peroshkina, she was the one who did a big job of creating this Civil 20 and making it a very powerful voice of civil society people. From what I know today, it is a bit less, they need to be more of a BRICS principles brought in there. But still, it was a very powerful and important moment as well. But with BRICS, starting with 2015, our chairship, we also, frankly, we didn't have much support from our government, and it was like we gathered by initiative 100-something people from all 5 BRICS countries for the civil forum. It was the first one, and it was very, let's say, rich in discussion. Some of the priorities that we were just looking at, they coincided with the priorities chosen by the chairing country, but some were totally of what civil society wanted from themselves, on their own. And immediately we started discussing, okay, this was a good dialogue, this is a good dialogue. We want to continue being in touch with each other. We want to continue push the government to do something that is important for us. And I can tell you, we had support afterwards from our government. So we were reporting already in 2015 to the Sherpas of what happened and what recommendations we reached and what we want further on. But it took us almost 10 years to come to their current result. And why it is important, because we wanted to have this continuity, want to ensure that there is essence kept for our movement, that it's not just sporadic meetings. Some countries want to hold them, some countries don't. Sorry, guys. Sorry for Beano, Ana Carolina, but we had 2019 when Brazil and the Bolsonaro simply skipped this outreach format. So we didn't have a chance to meet. And so it is very important that last year we finally got together and said, no, we want it. And it was a powerful and message, and it took time for us and took lots of efforts for us, for each of us, to talk to our governments and ensure that they want to be listening to us further, because as we know, as you all know, it was approved in point 132 of Kazan Declaration. So, and this year was yet another important step. Last year we had meetings with Sherpas, but this year we made another upgrade when we all were invited to be present at their summit. And one of our representatives of the BRICS Civil Council, he reported directly to all the leaders who were there. And I think from now on, we have this chance to keep the momentum and to ensure that BRICS, unlike other formats, be it formal organizations, be it clubs like the G's, will be taking us seriously and taking into account what we come up, because BRICS is people-centric, and BRICS is their grouping that grows from bottom to top, and it just it doesn't function in isolation. This is important. That's what we're here for. Sorry for being too long. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria Panova, for telling us more about this Silver BRICS background. I welcome the audience to deliver questions to our distinguished panelists. And now I would like to pass to our next host, Mr. Raymond Matlala. He's a professional with over a decade of experience in international youth diplomacy, policy development, and global cooperation. Currently pursuing PhD in business administration and recognized as a leading figure in youth leadership and multilateral engagement within G20 and BRICS. He serves as executive chairman of the South African BRICS Youth Association and board chair of the World Youth Summit. Since 2012, he has been actively involved in G20, having led the South African delegation in Youth 20 Summit. His international roles include co-secretariat of the Silver BRICS Council, South Africa, committee chair at the BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry Young Leaders, and advisory position for the Youth Council and the International Youth Skills Foundation, with participation in high-level forums such as the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, the WTO Public Forum, and BRICS Young Leaders Summit. He has solidified his status as a global expert in youth policy, diplomacy, and leadership, championing the inclusion of youth voices in international decision-making. Mr. Raymond, be very welcome.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you so much for the nice introduction. And good afternoon from Moscow. So I take this meeting in Moscow next to Dr. Panova's office now. I think, look, Civil BRICS is quite an interesting element because when you look at the entire track 3 of the BRICS pillars, actually talks to people exchange. So Civil BRICS is more of a pillar of track 3, if you want to put it like that, because both all of these other track 3 chapters and instruments and platform do exist under the theme, civil society and all of that. I mean, even how it is composed in the G20, for example, right? So you've got your track 1 and track 2, which is the Shepherd track and the finance track. And then you've got engagement groups and all of this, the B20, the W20, the Y20 are civil society led and approached. So if you look at this phenomenon, it's quite a massive and quite an important instrument. Now, I think Victoria has touched a little bit more on the history of civil BRICS. So before Kazan Declaration 2014, we did not have a civil BRICS Council, but we rather had a forum or a summit in that format, and it has been continuous. When I joined Civil Council, Civil BRICS, it was 2017. And South Africa was preparing to host the 2018 chairship. And as part of our advocacy, we've also put in the establishment of the council on our recommendations. And unfortunately, we did not win. We did it again in 2023 when South Africa was again chair of BRICS, and unfortunately, we did not win. But through our resilience with other colleagues, and in particular during Russia's chair of Civil Forum, there was then a recognition, an official recognition and endorsement by heads of states of now a permanent structure called Civil BRICS Council. And maybe just to touch on a few things, we were quite intentional about what the council should focus on, and we looked at issues of health, we looked at issues of education, we looked at issues of ecology, and maybe saying even ecology might some people might find it a bit confusing, but it's more about the protection of environment, sustainable development, and the issues of climate change. We looked at the issues of finance, addressing some of the financial cooperation there. We are under immense pressure by some countries that takes unilateral sanctions towards other countries and use a particular currency to do so. So in BRICS, this finance component is to look at what practically can be done to ensure that there is a movement of transactions between ordinary people. We know that there are discussions and they are at advanced stages around the digital currency for trade and also trading in local currencies. However, as ordinary citizens, we still faces the challenge. And I'll give you an example. As I leave South Africa to go to Moscow or Iran, as an example, I have to go and withdraw some funds from my South African bank or in rands and exchange that into either USD or euros. Then when I land in Moscow, I would then exchange that into rubles. And if I've not used all of my rubles, I would have to exchange it back to US dollars. Then I land in South Africa, then I exchange back. By the time I get my money, 90% or 80% is going to commissions and exchange rates, interest, and so forth. So as an ordinary citizen, we suffer even more. This financial component really is to look at what would a BRICS pay look like? What would be a movement of transactions? Would local currency reserves be another option that we use as a means of exchanging money amongst ourselves? And of course, we looked at most prominent issue. Now we live in the global world, so there's issues of cyber information security, cyber attack, and so forth. So we look at that and as well as advanced and emerging technologies, including the AI. And I left this one intentionally because it's very fundamental. We look at the issues of culture and promoting of culture. So that's what the 6 permanent working groups of the council are about. And we've left the room for the chairship to look at least the additional 4 or 5 of what is the priority for that particular year. But we know that permanently every year the council would have and must work on this particular six fundamental thematic areas. So in the South African context, what we've done is we've now started putting mechanisms and systems in place to ensure that these particular six working groups have got the coaches, permanent coaches. They also have members that belong to this, that brings in the ideas, both research, theoretically, as well as practical for policy implementation. Because what we want to do is our next policy recommendation pack must be twofold. It must have policy recommendations, but it must also have practical recommendations on the issues of culture. How do we ensure that we promote culture, ethos, religions, and so forth are amongst each other? How do we use universities as centers of excellence for cultural exchanges? So we need to look at all of those practical elements as well as we produce this policy and theoretical recommendations. So that's what we are busy with in South Africa, and those systems are in place. I'm sure many of you would know that South Africa preside over G20 this year. So 90% of all activities in our country has been around G20, and I currently chair the Y20. And I want to also add to what Dr. Panova has said, around G20. I can assure you as the chair of the current Y20 that the dynamics are different. When you go into a BRICS meeting, you go with an intention of a friendliness, with an intention of mutual respect, with an intention of mutual benefit. However, when you go into a meeting of G20, you go with you might go with an intention of collaboration and mutual respect. However, there's dominating voices that even suppresses the views of others, which I've experienced this year during our chairship. I mean, for the last 15 years, Y20 has been submitting this communique to heads of states. For the last 14 years, I mean, and this year, 15 year, Y20 does not have a communique. And that's because we were approached with a resistance to create a permanent mechanism for sustainability implementation and tracking of youth issues around the globe. And we took a very resolute stand to say we're not going to have a communique just as symbolic and for sake of having it. Colleagues, I know my time is up, but I just wanted to say civil BRICS really is very instrumental compared to other multilateral fora that exist in this world. And I think with the team that we're working with, we're giving ourselves another 5 years. In the next 5 years, I think there will be tangible results, and you'll see ourselves and we'll see some ordinary citizens having to learn about culture, having to use or to spend less on having to spend less on exchange when we travel to these countries that our allies have been sanctioned on the international systems, financial architecture in particular. And maybe I see Tiana said I still have some time. So maybe again, what I want to touch on is how do we support Civil BRICS Council financially? Because as we may know, anything that is good but have got no financial resources remains a dream. And for us, we want this to be a practical and tangible approach system. I mean, for example, our Brazilian counterparts really struggled this year to raise sufficient funds to ensure that we have all the members of the Civil BRICS Council from different countries participating in the Civil Council meeting, which took place in the margins of the BRICS summit in Rio. Although now there's been some efforts to ensure that when we go to the People's BRICS Assembly, the People's BRICS Forum, that there is some resources. But we, as part of this collective leadership of the civil BRICS, we are also working with our respective governments to ensure that there is sustainable funding for civil BRICS activities, even within chapter tracks, because all of these six permanent thematic tracks would not necessarily find themselves being positioned or being practically researched or whatever the case might be without any financial resources. So maybe using this platform is to call on not only governments, but also even private sector and philanthropies from the BRICS member states to invest in people-to-people exchange and in civil society activities, in particular civil council. Colleagues, I think I'm going to stop here for now and yield the field back to yourself, Ms. Pereira. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raymond. You bring a very interesting approach regarding the practical aspects of the demands that the civil BRICS brings to the table. Let me now introduce our next panelist, Professor Fabiano Miotzuk. I always struggle to pronounce his last name. Professor Fabiano is teaching political science at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul here in Brazil. He teaches at the graduate program in International Strategic Studies and is a researcher member of NEBRICS, the BRICS research group in university. His areas of interest are political theory and theory international relations, critical security studies, international relations of Russia, the space of the former Soviet Union and Europe, and the BRICS. He's also president of BRICS, the Brazilian Association of Academics in Defense of the BRICS. Professor Fabiano, very welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Tainá, for your kind words. Thank you very much for the organizers of this event. It's a pleasure to be here with Victoria Panova, Raymond Matala, my good friends from the Civil BRICS Council, and in this engagement of civil society with the BRICS Initiative. Ivan Kiryazev and Ana Carolina Ferrari, is also a pleasure to be here with you. So thank you very much for this opportunity. After these presentations by Victoria Panova and Raymond, I'd like maybe to highlight some background argument in terms of the civil participation and the social movement participation in the BRICS format. Okay, the first thing that should be considered is that the principle of BRICS is respect for diversity. And this is very difficult to put in place once you have countries that are highly different in terms of cultural, linguistic, economics, and everything related to the social life of a country. So maybe this is one of the reasons why the Civil BRICS Council was only acknowledged and institutionalized last year. After it started, the civil process started in 2015 with Russia, as Victoria mentioned. So after almost 10 years of engagements, we could establish this. If you take the Business Council, it was established much earlier. Even the Youth Council, with the help of Raymond in South Africa, was established before that. So it says a lot about this level of difficulty that we have to put together people that are different, but even so would like to join efforts respecting that difference, respecting that diversity. And of course, there's also another thing which is very important to consider, is that because we are different, we are afraid of trying to impose our own views, our own values in our partners. So it's difficult to find out an institutional mechanism to cooperate so that we can respect each other without advancing the red lines of imposing our own views on others. So it's a very delicate situation where we should practice and put in practice the respect for diversity. And this is very interesting, because in the world that we live in today, the notion of civil society is a notion, a concept that was hijacked by Western liberal thinking. And I say that not only in terms of theory, but in terms of practice. When we think about civil society participation, we think about that from the perspective of what the West considers to be civil society participation. And how is this participation organized from the point of view of the West? We have governments from Western countries that have money and that create their own NGOs, their own institutions, with their own agendas, usually to promote their own interests. We have international foundations that might be philanthropic, or that might be charitable, or that might be ideological, that have lots of money that's coming from the private sector so that they can advance their own agendas, and they support initiatives in other countries. So they have money. This money gives birth to organizations. These organizations advance these agendas, and somehow, and it's not a surprise, of course, somehow these agendas are complicit, or at least are in accordance with the interests of the Western governments. So I've been dealing with that in practice since we started this civil process discussion to organize and to create the Civil BRICS Council in 2024, when the Russians tried to reach Brazilian organizations to participate, and they had a problem because in Brazil we're all involved with the G20, and we had all this funds going to participation of civil society in the G20, and nobody wanted to participate in BRICS. So that's where we started with this process, taking the public universities in Brazil, the federal universities, which are autonomous, which don't need to receive money from these sources, and to put people from the GBRICS at USP, people from the NEP BRICS in Bahia, people from other research groups in PUC, Minas Gerais, and Rio de Janeiro Federal University, to start this engagement. So, and usually during these debates, I presented these numbers, which are very, very huge in terms of resources that are spent to promote specific agendas in Brazilian civil society. Open Societies Foundation in Brazil in 2024 spent $35 million founding civil society organizations. This is more than 150 million reais. And we know that in Brazil, 150 million reais, sometimes this money does not appear in important ministries to promote public policies, according to the line of the elected government that was elected by the population. And privately we have. And if you check the list of these organizations, of course, there are very good organizations that promote their agendas because they are in accordance with that. But there are other civil society organizations that no one knows, even if there is a website. And the general allocation of money goes to promoting democracy in Brazil, which is something very serious, and we need to engage in that. So this is the practicality of the way civil society is conceived in the West. And this is one thing, that if the agenda comes from abroad, and if all civil society organizations start working in the same agenda, where is the respect for diversity in terms of the self-determination of peoples, of the autonomy, and of the sovereignty of the social movements and civil society organizations of these countries to have their own agenda? So that's why BRICS is so important. That's why the pillar of people to people in BRICS is so important. But it's a very difficult one. We have countries where the governments are more supportive of this idea. Other countries, the governments are somehow they believe that they should not engage in that, exactly because this perspective of civil society comes with this idea that civil society works against the government, because it comes from a liberal pedigree, which says that you need to be against the government because actually the government is a problem, not the solution. And we see, when you look at the Western countries, the liberal countries, see that maybe that's not the case, because they're facing huge troubles, huge problems in terms of social aspects of their lives. And so this is a delicate problem that should be overcome, and that's why this institutionalization of the civil BRICS format is so welcome, because now it created the opportunity in these BRICS countries for civil society organizations and for social movements. And this is very important to highlight that here in Brazil, there's one member of the council which is from the Landless movement, the MST, Judith, which is from the board national coordination of the MST, and they are very engaged in this process. Because they do look critically to the way the world is considered, and they do not accept this conception of civil society which is in accordance with Western countries. So that's why we say that BRICS, and even at the people-to-people pillar, is not anti-Western. But once we have this notion of participation that is hijacked by Western values, and we do accept the notion that if the agenda is imposed from abroad, we won't respect diversity, then we become a kind of movement which is non-Western. What I mean by that? We are offering a different perspective on how we should engage in participation and how we should work with our governments, with our social movements, to provide for a better life for our people. And that's what it's all about. When we talk about people to people, we're talking about how to make the life of the Brazilians, of the Russians, of the South Africans, of the Ethiopians, the Egyptians, and many other, the Chinese, better. Because if we get close to each other, if we know each other, there are more opportunities of exchange, more opportunities of learning, and more opportunities also of economic engagement with the other countries. So this is the main idea behind it. And so how can we conceptualize civil society from a different perspective, which is a non-Western one? So and here are some tips that I took from the participation in this process, and that we're trying to do that. First, we do not consider that civil society should be against the government. That's a very Western-oriented perspective. Okay, we do think that the government represents the interests of the society. And of course, there might be some difference, the emphasis is different, but we cannot define a priori that we are against. And it creates problems for those that think about the government as being some evil organization. And then some people even do not engage with this initiative because they do not accept that in a principled position, which is, of course, in accordance with this Western perspective that we do not share in terms of diversity. So this universalist idea that there's only one way to conceive that is wrong. And we want to open up for different ways of participation. And in practice, how do we take that? For instance, in Brazil, the Brazilian government has decided 6 main priorities for the Brazilian chairship this year, 2025. And we managed, from the Brazilian side, together with the partners from other countries, to organize our debates in the civil society and the social movement sphere around these 6 issues, in accordance with the structure of the Civil BRICS Council, which has 6 permanent working groups. So we had that flexibility. We considered as important the priorities that the Brazilian government decided to be discussed in BRICS. We did not, and this is very important, we did not antagonize with the Brazilian government, because we thought that that was important, because the Brazilian government is a legitimate government, and we accept the contributions of the government. And we even create another one to accommodate the interests of the Brazil, which is the institutionalization of BRICS. There was the 7 working groups this year, and this is one topic that Brazil raised this year, and we had this working group to advance these ideas and to contribute to that. So this is one very important thing. Another thing, the Brazilian government decided that the debates in Brazil concerning to BRICS and everything related to BRICS would last from February to July. It was very difficult for us to put in practice a debate with more than 10 countries, 10 different regions of the world, to find a way of engaging with these priorities that the Brazilian government had established, and to present a document that was a consensual one, accepted by all the participants. More than 200 organizations of civil societies of all BRICS countries participated in this debate. It was very difficult. I know that many of you that are here in this panel were engaged in that. It was very difficult for many things. We have different holidays in our countries, and when you put 10 countries together, usually there's always one holiday per week for each one. So it's difficult to put everybody together to discuss. We have different time zones. It's difficult to find a meeting now. It's I guess it's 4 p.m. in
It's 2:45.
Professor Fabiano is frozen, I think. Yeah. But very interesting aspects he is bringing in his speech. It's always very revealing to listen to Professor Fabiano. Let me check if he will be able to come back. I suppose he was close to deliver his final remarks. Maybe we can move on here, and then he comes back to finalize his speech. Okay, so let's invite now our next panelist, Mr. Ivan Kryatsev. He is a researcher and Deputy Director for International Affairs, the Knowledge Hub, center under the Russian State University for the Humanities, where he works on initiatives aimed at strengthening dialogue between civil society and global governance platforms. He also serves as a senior advisor at the Directorate of the World Youth Forum, one of the largest international events promoting youth cooperation and public diplomacy. Ivan holds a bachelor's degree in Latin American history and is currently pursuing a master's degree at the Lomonosov Moscow State University, focusing on Brazil's foreign policy and South-South cooperation. Ivan is almost Brazilian, speaks Portuguese very well. Please, Ivan, the floor is yours.
Okay, dear colleagues, maybe we can continue with Professor Fabiano because I see him now in Zoom, and then I will start my speech.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome back, Professor Fabiano.
Sorry, I was just mentioning about the difficulties that we have in terms of organizing the civil society participation, and internet connectivity is also another one of these problems. No, I guess I don't want to disturb it anymore. So I guess the main message that I wanted to present to you was presented already. So I'd like to thank you again, and I'm going to be open to the debate in the following after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Fabiano. Now, yes, please, Ivan, you have the word.
Okay. Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for being here to talk with you, to debate such important topic like BRICS, the civil society in BRICS countries. So I would like to speak, I think, in a more concrete way, because I would like to present one initiative that is present now in Russia. We are deep engaged into it. So I would like to present the center where I'm working now. It's the Knowledge Hub Center of the Russian State University for the Humanities. And also I would like to emphasize and I'd like to talk about the largest sociological study that we have made about the values of youth and BRICS. So I think it's very important that Professor Fabiano has mentioned that we, people from different countries that take part in BRICS, need to know each other better in the better way so we can succeed. And I think it is the main aim. It's the principal topic we are doing every day. Since 2021, our center has been working to strengthen cooperation between BRICS countries in the fields of civil society, education, and culture. We see our role as a connecting academic knowledge, practical diplomacy, and youth initiatives. Our work is built around three main directions: academic and educational programs, informational and communicational work, and finally, international project development. Over the past 4 years, we have organized more than 400 events involving over 10,000 participants from 26 countries. These include representatives of universities, research centers, youth organizations, and innovative companies. Our events, they range from research conferences and cultural forums to youth laboratories and international training programs. Our philosophy is quite simple. We believe that meaningful cooperation among BRICS countries cannot be built only at the level of governments or ministries. It must also grow up from the bottom up through people, communities, and young professionals. That's why we constantly work with students and young researchers who will shape the future of this cooperation. In our projects, we do not limit ourselves to presenting Russian experience. We aim to learn our partners and build new forms of cooperation between them, between universities, NGOs, and finally, youth movements. And one day during this process, we discovered a major problem. There was very little reliable data about what young people in BRICS countries actually think about BRICS itself. While governments and experts talk a lot about strategic importance, strategic partnership, we realized that very few have asked the youth what this partnership means to them personally. What do they associate with BRICS? What values do they connect within? And how do they imagine its future? I would like to show the presentation I have now. So can anyone see it?
Yes.
It's okay? Great.
Yes.
And so to
it would be good
let's-
if you can expand the view.
yeah, sure. I'll just make it that way.
Perfect.
Just a moment, please. It's better, right? So to fill this gap, we launched a large-scale sociological study called The Image of Russia and BRICS Countries in the Perception of Youth People in BRICS Countries. It was designed to collect first-hand data on how young people from BRICS countries perceive their organization, emotionally, culturally, and finally symbolically. This study itself involved more than 5,000 young people aged 18 to 35 from Russia, Brazil, India, China, and South Africa, mostly students and young professionals representing a wide variety of disciplines and backgrounds. We understood that traditional surveys often fail to capture the real picture. Young people today tend to be cautious about formal questionnaires. They may skip questions or give answers that can be socially acceptable, but they don't reflect their real feelings. Therefore, we decided to go beyond standard pooling. To make our data more accurate, we combined quantitative and qualitative methods and applied the method of associative sociological analysis. And this approach is focused on spontaneous associations, words, emotions, and images that people connect with a particular country or concept. For example, what comes to mind when what comes to mind when you hear Brazil, China, Russia, or BRICS? Such associative chains reveal not only what people know, but what they feel. And this method helps bypass rational, correct answers and give access to the emotional level of perception, the deep structure of how people imagine the world itself. And I would like to emphasize, from a scientific perspective, it was the first systematic attempt to record the emotional and value-based images of BRICS countries as seen by young people. We combined techniques from sociology, psycholinguistics, and intercultural communication. Similar studies have been done in other contexts, for example, in branding or media analysis, but never before in relation to BRICS. In that sense, our work opened a new line of interdisciplinary research. And at the same time, this study has a strong practical dimension. The findings are not just stored in reports. We use them directly to design international programs and apply for grants. This data helps us build event agendas, create educational and cultural projects, and justify their relevance with real evidence about youth interests and values. Let me say a few words about how the research was conducted. All associative lists were carefully tested and adapted for respondents aged 18 to 35. Participants were asked to choose associations related to their own country and to other BRICS countries. We also included some creative and open-ended questions. For example, if BRICS was a building, what kind of building would it be? Or if BRICS were an animal, which one? And later, during focus groups, we discussed the meaning behind these associations. The step was very important. It helped us interpret the data correctly. For instance, the word fear sometimes expressed vulnerability, like I'm afraid. But sometimes power and respect, I inspire fear. Such nuances show how complex and layered national images can be at all. And when describing BRICS today, respondents most often used words such as strength, development, influence, cooperation, or intellect. When respondents were asked about BRICS in the future, the most common associations were unity, innovation, leadership, and power. So for many, BRICS represents a group of countries with rich cultures and long histories that are now becoming engines of global growth. Others can say that BRICS brings together states often seen by the West as weaker, yet capable of changing this perception and strengthening a more balanced, multipolar world order. Quantitative results also confirmed the positive picture of BRICS at all. So today, BRICS is one of the most attractive international associations for young people across its member countries. For example, in Brazil, 97% of respondents said that they support the development of cooperation within BRICS. In South Africa, 93%. In China, 88%. In Russia, 78%. And even in India, 58%, which is still a solid majority. At the same time, the research reveals a broader trend. Young people are generally open to international cooperation, regardless of political differences and some problems. This shows that the younger generations tend to think in terms of opportunity and development, not confrontation. And as for the areas where young people see the greatest potential for BRICS cooperation, cultural and education projects, the most important are joint exhibitions, books exchanges, theater performances, and student mobility programs. Next up, business, investments, or diplomacy. And what young people want most is participation in real projects, initiatives where they can apply their creativity and see visible results, from startups to artistic collaborations. Overall, the study made by our center showed that BRICS is perceived not only as an economic or political bloc, but as a symbol of hope, strength, and fairness. For us, this conclusion became both a theoretical insight and a roadmap for action. We now use the knowledge as the foundation for building the next generation of BRICS-related programs, ones that speak directly to the interests and emotions of young people. We have already started putting these results into practice. For example, in the springs of 2025, we organized the media school, the Balkans, and the BRICS Plus in Serbia, supported by Gorchakov Foundation in Russia. The concepts and training modules were built entirely on the data we gathered, on what young people said they value most: openness, creativity, and cooperation. The school became the first project where sociological data were transformed directly into an educational and intercultural experience. Our next major step will be the BRICS Youth Futurology School that will take place this year in December 2025 and will bring together more than 50 young experts, researchers, and analysts from 11 countries. Its aim is to create a collaborative space where participants can develop the same visions and scenarios for the future of BRICS and its partner countries. And looking further ahead, our long-term goal is the creation of International Network School of Futurologists of BRICS and partner countries, a permanent platform for learning, research, and exchange among young thinkers of the global south. We see it as a community that will not only study the future, but also actively design it, a living example of knowledge diplomacy in action. Thank you very much for your attention. I remain open to cooperation, and I will be very glad to share our study, to share our methodology, findings, and some country-specific results if they can be interesting for every one of you.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Very interesting research. We certainly would like to see more about it. It's interesting the perspective you bring to the future. It's crucial when thinking about BRICS Plus, its future's leaders, particularly in space like BRICS civil society. Well, last but not least, I would like to invite my dear colleague, Ana Ferrari, to join us in this interesting conversation. Let me introduce her properly. Ana is a researcher at the BRICS since 2016. She holds a master's degree in law from the University of Lyon, bachelor's degree in law from the University of São Paulo and University of Lyon, and a degree in education from the University of São Paulo. Currently, she's pursuing a master's in education at the University of São Paulo. Welcome, Ana.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Tainá. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. It's a common thing we do. And today I'm really happy to be here in my own home. It's home here because this event is something that I know since I don't know. I think it's 9 years. So I'm creating this for a long time. Today, I would like to talk about BRICS. It's something that I do in a lot of places, but here it's really special because 10 years of BRICS this year, and I think it's time to talk about ourselves in our own event. So I will I really want to talk about it. I'm really nervous because, well, I can be emotional sometimes because BRICS is really part of my life and something that I do for I how you say I don't know how I told you I've been here for a long time, and well, BRICS is a group. People to people, it's a civil group. We're not collegated with government, so I think it's a main place to talk about it. And I'm really nervous. I'm really emotional. BRICS is a group that make opportunities to talk about a civil organization and a main organization. It creates organization about civil people, and I've been here doing this during all this year. Last July, I've been in Rio with Fabiano, Victoria, and Raymond, just talking about civil participation because BRICS did it, because we are doing this for a long time. I've been there when we were organizing the first we call jornadas in Portuguese. After we have to translate to conference because it became in English. But 9 years ago, we were discussing the name. I really remember special people that it's here yet here creating this and organizing this for a long time. And I have a lot of friends here, so it's a really special thing to talk. And well, I'll try to talk a little more, a little less emotional and a little more institutionalized. But let's talk. GBRICS was created at the University of São Paulo at the Faculty of Law by a few group, five people, and they were all studying about BRICS in their research or something like BRICS in some way, and they started a study group. So GBRICS was born as a study group, and 1 year after 2015, and in 2016 they opened our first edital of to join people, and it was that time that I became a GBRICS, GBRICO, GBRICA, I don't know, a girl of GBRICS. And I really didn't expect that we could to connect so many people around the world as we do now, as we are doing now, in exactly this time. And now we are 39 people, 39 researchers, and we have 20 women in our group. So it's really special to have this number. We really consider gender things, gender agenda. We really consider all the areas. So we have research from many areas of study. Law, of course, how I said, we was born to the University of São Paulo at the Faculty of Law, but now we have people from economy, from sociology, from I will take here to tell you. We have international relations, like our friend Tina, and geography. We have already been in places about energy and engineer, and it's really special how GBRICS is doing the people-to-people connection and participating. We are always engaged in do everything that everyone ask us, invite us to be. We have partners in all the principals BRICS group, the first five groups, first five countries of BRICS. We have partners. Now we are doing we are taking 15 doctors, 15 PhDs, 8 masters, 16 graduating, doing their graduations. So I gave you these numbers, but what I really want to talk to everyone today is how GBRICS is doing our job doing this. I'm sorry, I've been nervous because GBRICS is something that it's part of my life, and I'm 30, so it's a third part of my life I'm doing this. I'm here, so it's a lot. And and it's really special to me to talk about the BRICS. I've been in many events in name of the BRICS, and I knew some friends that I would take for life. I can say that because already doing talking to them every day. So when we are invited to an event about BRICS, of course, everywhere we are always looking forward to connect people, and we put people together here in this event every year. And today it's a special day because this year is a special year because it's 10 years doing this, and I really believe that we have a lot of way to grow, and I'm really thank you to everyone since Monday until today, and since 2015 is is growing this and making this happen. So it's what I wanted to share, and uh, it's not exactly something special about how people to people can engage BRICS, but it's about how GBRICS is doing this for a long time, 10 years doing this and believe in this. And actually now we are seeing results. So it's really, really nice to be here and seeing all these things happen and all BRICS happen. And I've been there with Fabiano, Raimon, and Victoria. And when I saw that, I was really happy. Everyone's talking about BRICS and everyone knew BRICS. The presidents of Brazil this year, it was really important to engage. And when we started, I have to tell you that when I started that, we had a minister of state that didn't know what means BRICS, the letters. So we were just people talking about something really, really, well, we don't know, really uh, not important, I can say, for society in general. And we passed for a time really hard, as Victoria and Fabiano and Armand told us, from 2015 to 2020, 2022. We didn't have a lot of things about BRICS in Brazil, and GBRICS was every year and every time they're insisting in this. And now we are here talking about to put our considerations inside of the government discussion about BRICS. And we did this with the civil council this year, and it was really special for us, at least for me. and well, and saw the final documents of the government this year. It was really special because we had some things that we did in our civil. We gave them to by our meetings, as Fabiano told us, and it was really special. It's almost how to see the baby growing and became an adult now. So I'm really proud of us. So I would like to share this with everyone in our own event this year. And well, I think it's what I want to talk to you, tell you. I'm sorry to be so nervous today. It's special. But thank you very much, Taina, and it's that.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for bringing to the table the important historical of this group, GBRICS, which is certainly an agent of promoting the civil society engagement. I would like to propose a last round of words from our panelists, some final remarks. Considering that the Brazilian presidency has not, it's not over yet, and we still have some important international forums this year: COP30, G20, and we'll have the Civil BRICS Forum by the beginning of December. I would like to hear from our panelists about what do you see for the future of the BRICS Civil BRICS Popular engagement. And please, Dr. Panova, if you may.
Sorry, if you could ask me later on, I need to respond to some issues first. Sorry.
No problem. Professor Fabiano, Raymond.
Maybe if I can jump in this debate. This is still the Brazilian chairship of BRICS. Although we had the summit in July, we're still holding the presidency of the grouping. So there will be, in terms of the Civil BRICS Council, there will be, in 2 weeks, there will be a meeting in Moscow with representatives from all countries that is being organized by the Russian side. Representatives from Brazil are going, Judite Santos from MST is going to be there representing us. And this is going to be a very important meeting to consider these 2 years of working at the Civil BRICS Council and for planning for new activities that are coming. And of course, it's going to be a preparation for what we're calling the BRICS People Summit that is going to happen next December in Rio de Janeiro. And all those agents that are involved somehow in the debates and the working group that we had in Brazil, they're already aware that we're going to have this meeting, in-person meeting with representatives from all countries, all representatives of the BRICS Civil Council, Civil BRICS Council, that they're going to be here in Brazil. And this is going to be interesting for us to kind of pass the torch to the Indian friends that are going to be the chairs next year. So this is a very important moment, a formal important moment that is going to happen in the beginning of December. In terms of the general comments, if I may, one very important thing that comes from this initiative of the Council and comes from this initiative of the civil participation in the BRICS grouping is that now we have the opportunity to engage people from a different perspective, a non-Western perspective. And if I may give this example, that's important because the last 2 years we've been debating a lot and we've been taking on board many scholars that are very pro-BRICS and want and see BRICS as an alternative for development of our countries. And if I may present that, then based on these efforts and based on these debates at the Brazilian civil society regarding to scholars, we created this Brazilian Scholars in Defense of BRICS Association, which is a political association in favor of BRICS, but made of scholars that have expertise and can contribute to the debate in Brazil, can affect the public opinion of Brazil when it comes to BRICS, and can, of course, be engaged in the process of public policy formulation. So this is one thing that probably we're going to see many other organizations of that kind. There is also the BRICS Arts Association already in Brazil, and they all somehow they drink from this fountain which is non-Western. So this is a very important thing that I'd like to point that we are starting this process. This is a long-term process. It's not something that's going to happen and materialize and bring results very soon, but this is something that we need to have in mind when we're talking about this civil process. So the idea is that the Civil BRICS Council is the beginning of a process. It's not the end of the process. So that's why it's so important for us to engage in it and to advance that. And that's why we're having these meetings and we're trying to plan these ideas.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Professor Fabiano. Raymond?
Yeah, no. Thank you so much. As Fabiano said, in 2 weeks, we will meet in Moscow to go through a strategic planning for the Civil BRICS Council, and to look at what is the medium term and what's the long term. And as I've said, I mean, some of my thoughts is we need to mix theory with practice, and that's some of the things that we will be discussing. But it also gives an opportunity for new colleagues, in particular the new member states, right, to also get infused into the process, and get also to understand how the process works. Because indeed, BRICS is a unique body that works rather different to a lot of multi-fora platforms. And we also look forward to attending the People's BRICS Summit in Rio again, this time with delegations from civil society across the BRICS member states and beyond. So we look forward to that. We have already started with crafting of the agenda, and it's looking good. There's going to be some intense discussions. But also, we look forward to ensuring that the 6 thematic permanent working groups of the Civil BRICS are sustainable. And there's always a high level position, recommendation, and deliverable that comes out of that. I see on the chat that there is a question, or rather a statement around some of the BRICS members situated geographically in the north. But so, I mean, the Global South weight was also, in inverted commas, fed to us by the West, by the way. So, through our colleagues in Russia during our debates, the new weight now is the global majority, which then simply takes out any geographical demarcation or challenges that comes with that, but look at where the global majority sits and which country associate itself with the global majority. And all the BRICS member states are part and associate themselves with the terminology of the global majority. So, so that is something that perhaps, because I see the person is emotional and so forth, and I hope that would help to know that there is a term that we have adapted as a Civil BRICS Council, which we move away from saying the global south, but rather the global majority. And just in closing, I also look forward to also experience some Brazilian culture again. The last time we were there for the summit, it was a very short time. We didn't get a lot of time to. It's very important to learn the culture and to experience the culture of all the BRICS member states so that we are able to understand each other. You know, I always give a typical example with a colleague that I work with on a daily basis. He's from India, and he likes to say, "Do one thing for me. You do one thing for me." In South African, that comes out as an instruction, but in Indian, that comes out as an, "Please, can you do this for me?" So it's just about understanding those cultural dynamics, and we start to understand each other. And using this particular colleague of mine as an example, there's another colleague or a service provider who refused to work with him because he thought he was giving him instructions and it's not his place to. But when I explained that, no, he's actually not giving instructions, but it's actually please. It's just how culturally saying please do this for me in India comes across. Also, the stigmas that exist within our countries, like, you know, when you go to South Africa, everyone asks me, is it safe to go to South? Is it safe to walk on the street? I mean, I was hosting some colleagues from HSE University in September for the BRICS Summer School, and they went to Sandton and did the whole shopping all alone. They came back alive, good. They went to safaris, you know, So there's some level of cards, but not as it has been perpetuated, and the stigma that goes with that by mainstream media. Similar to Russia, people think that when you're going to Russia, so you're going to a war zone, but there's no war in Russia. And that's the perception that we need to create. I think lastly, as I close off, we really need to think through and very hard about the channels of distribution for to overcome the stigmas. We know that mainstream media is not going to do that for us. It is us that we need to think about how do we create a platform that is accessible to all BRICS member states, in particular ordinary citizens in the BRICS member states, to ensure that they know the true reflections of the BRICS countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raymond. Professor Panalvo, are you able to talk now?
Yeah, briefly. So, first of all, being the one from the global north, or from their geographic north, not global north, probably because we don't want the confusion. Yeah, we kind of accept the term global south and east, but we do prefer to say global majority, because we're the majority. Just BRICS and partner countries, it's over 50%, I think 55% of world population. And if we talk about all the countries that are willing to join us and willing to be constructively engaging, those are definitely the ones that are beyond the golden billion, right? So we have like approximately almost 7 billion out of 8 billion altogether. So this is global majority. I like this term better. But definitely, when we talk about future engagement, I think what is also important, and Fabiana talked and Raymond as well, about the upcoming events that we're having in November in Moscow, in December in Rio. What is also important is not to only provide for continuity and deepen our cooperation, because we already have lots of ideas. If we keep throwing them, even no matter how nice they are, if we keep throwing ideas without implementing them, without ensuring that those go through, this would be of no value. This would be nice, but improper, let's say useless talk show, which we don't want. So we need to, environment raise the issue, for example, finance. Yeah, we need to see how this could be sustained, but also how the projects that we are working on together, that we are suggesting as ideas to our governments, how they could be implemented and how we could help with that. This is important. For example, I should mention our blind football, which we held last year, end of the year. We wanted to have it annually, but I know that Brazil did have some, even though Brazil is like, one top football country. Nevertheless, we couldn't manage it this year, but we cannot drop it. I think this is very important social initiative, and this could be expanded not just to football, but all their people with, health problems, with the disabilities. So this could be like BRICS Paralympics. So this has to be done. We have BRICS games, but we need to pay more attention to socially oriented projects like this. Another point, so that's one thing. Another point beyond our partnership and beyond those countries that are member countries, including the new ones, what is important that we had invited partner countries. We have countries that are willing, who are aspiring to join us, but cannot do it for now. While it is counterproductive to, make it too big, which would ensure it would fail on the level of the governments. I believe it would only benefit the group if we, as civil society, as academia, as youth, could be inviting those countries for more active participation in our projects, in brainstorming, in idea setting. So probably we should be thinking of how we should be engaging our partners, so that would prove inclusivity of BRICS, not just for the BRICS itself, but for the world. So I'll stop here.
Thank you, Professor Victoria. Now I would like to invite Mr. Ivan to his final remarks.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, thank you so much for your speeches. I completely support all the ideas. I would just to add some points. I'll not make a very big speech. So I mean, the principal point of our meeting today is the fact that we are taking part in the expansion of BRICS, and it doesn't mean expansion the common sense. It means expansion of formats, of events, of ideas, and I'm sure that this is the principal idea and the main goal that can be pursued by BRICS countries. At the same time, I strongly believe that beyond our differences, beyond some specific things, the civilizational approach can be the keystone of our future cooperation between BRICS countries. If we're talking about civil society, if we're talking about culture, sports, some other specific issues, because we will recognize the civilizational or national identity of each country, its own traditions, its own values, its own history, and this will help us. This will strengthen the cooperation in the future. I also believe that the term civil society that was elaborated in Western Europe, but it became quite common today, can be interpreted in different way. We can put our own senses, our own meanings in that term, just to clarify and to make it wider and more diverse, finally. I also believe that the future of BRICS itself depends on the various formats of cooperation between our countries, beyond forums, beyond different events of very high status. We can develop some more specific projects, some more specific and concrete initiatives that also foster the cooperation between our countries and finally help us to understand each other better. And I think it's the principal point. So I would like to appreciate the work made by BRICS because I think it's a wonderful initiative. And I'm very happy that in Brazil, there are so many centers dedicated to the study of BRICS in São Paulo, in Rio Grande do Sul, in Rio de Janeiro, and some other places. I think it's very important because everyone can make his own contribution to BRICS studies and to developing our cooperation at all. So thank you. I'm very grateful to be here, and I think that the future of BRICS depends on any one of us, on our proper initiatives and ideas that can foster our cooperation.
That's right, exactly, Mr. Ivan. Thank you. And now, finally, Anna.
Hi everyone again. Well, as a education student, education researcher, I really believe in some concepts that I think it's applying in this case. Well, firstly, I really like to share and to propagate an idea of a Brazilian writer called Oswald de Andrade. That it's an idea in Portuguese that we call anthropophagia, in English can be like a cannibalism, but in a cultural sense. So anthropophagy is like when it's a cultural thing that you go and you take another cultures and you eat this and you throw out something different. And Brazil is really like this, in my view, in my belief. I'm always fighting for anthropophagical. I don't know, put in English this word, anthropophagical education. So I'm always advocating this because I really believe in this, and I think in BRICS we have a same way to do this. We have a really rich cultures, some millenarians cultures like Indian culture and Chinese culture, and we have the opportunity to make a change and exchange of cultural things in a way that we can do an anthropophagical way. And it's the way that I believe that it's the best way to change with all the world, even with the Western. So I'm always advocating the idea of um, uh, a sharing, culture sharing between people, that we can considering the other culture, but in our own culture. So we don't need to put in the trash all the Western culture, or even whatever we can discuss about, but we can see what it's important for us, what's matter, what it's make a sense for us. It's the way that I really believe that our heart can consider that. So when I see the BRICS countries, I think we have a lot of in common. So this process is really more easy. It's what I really believe. So we can talk about problems of the third world. It's what we did in the civil meeting in all this year, and we can see that we have same problems. We have problems really close, and we can talk to each other to understand how we lead with this, or how we will deal with this, because it's really it's really easy to use the ideas and to change connections. Like I really would like to share, Fabiano, about the health group that they created. They created an idea to, and it became the statement, the main pronunciation talked about this, how SUS, our health system, is really well created and organized, and how this can be a support to help the other BRICS countries to construct their own health system, and how we, all of us, are leading, are dealing dealing with social disease. Yes, is that what I want to find? Social disease. So I think the way we have this hurt is exactly how we can make this anthropophagical process just talking to each other. We don't need to do so much digestion of this, because we are close. We can we can just transport the ideas, the cultural things, and sometimes we have to do this process, but it's always important to do this process. But how this is so easier, and when we talk to partners, to brothers and sisters, to siblings. So it's what I really believe, and I'm always advocating for this, the process of a cultural anthropophagical. I don't know if I can do this in English, talk this in English, but how I'm always how we can do this the anthropophagical eating and cannibalism, but not in the mythy way, but in the cultural way. And I really believe that this process is amazing to make the connections in BRICS and our closer things make this easier and really soft to do. I think it's that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for your kind words. And well, I would like to thank all the panelists once again for accepting the invitation to be here. We celebrate the Silver BRICS Council and we look forward to seeing many achievements from this important platform for cooperation. Thank you very much to everyone who has been watching us. And I invite you to reconnect for a closing panel in about 30 minutes for our BRICS conference closing panel. This is it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dear colleagues, I just wanted to make a small, it's not a speech, just to add some information. In 2 weeks, our team is going to visit Brazil. We will visit Brasilia, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo. We're just organizing an event in USP, em Instituto das Relações Internacionais. Well, so I think it can be interesting for you. We can talk about it, or about making some more events with GBRICS in São Paulo, because we are very interested in it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ivan, for the invitation. We'll discuss more about it. Thank
Great.
you all again. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.